Good evening. So, went home, recording from home. I still sound horrible. I'm never, ever, ever going to listen to this video, and I will delete it as soon as we're back in the classroom on Monday. But the entire premise of this is, again, towards these long-term skills, because one-on-one meetings are going to be one of your important tools as both a relationship piece with your manager as well as influencing others and scheduling time with them to, kind of walk through a specific agenda meeting for a specific purpose. So one-on-one meetings, not just public speaking, are going to be a critically important skill. So I'm going to try to limit this to as close as we can. And then we're going to just step through some stuff. I'll post the PowerPoint as well. So first of all, simply, what is the definition of a one-on-one? So a definition is going to be the meeting between you and another person, referred to as a one-on-one. However, for the purpose of what we're talking about today and what we're kind of designing things for, the one-on-one is going to refer to a regular meeting between yourself and your supervisor or manager. Now, again, I'm going to try to keep this language consistent with, if you're going to do an internship, if you're going to do an internship in college, if you're going to do, like an entry-level engineering job, I want to keep all of the terminology the same. So supervisor or manager. In this case, it's your teacher, but supervisor or manager in a normal situation. So what is the purpose? The purpose is going to be a couple of folds. The first thing is to improve communication. One-on-one, looking each other in the eye and having this set aside time is going to be critically important to having active communication. It's going to give you an opportunity to provide and receive feedback. And it's also going to give you an opportunity to improve and manage performance. This is a time that's going to be set aside for you. And if you leverage it appropriately, you're going to be able to address these issues or these kind of goals. So as a description, the one-on-one is going to be your meeting. When we say your, I mean, literally your. In a workplace, you would own the agenda and you're going to use the agenda to address your needs. So you're going to communicate that agenda prior. And when we get to the end, we'll talk about how you want to pre-publish an agenda so that the person that you're meeting with is going to be able to adequately prepare, get the appropriate mindset, investigate anything they need to in order to be present and be effective in that meeting. You can use it to communicate progress towards goals. In our case, towards like a class objective, and then also resolving barriers if there's something, for example, that you have that's preventing your learning from taking place. So some non-examples though. One thing you don't want to get into the habit of is dismissing the need for a one-on-one because you, like for in this case, for the first bullet, you casually encounter your supervisor or manager. If we have a conversation in passing, or maybe it's a hallway conversation, if it doesn't include the agenda, if it doesn't include that specific set aside time, don't count that as your one-on-one. Or in another case, if you had a mission-oriented meeting to resolve a specific problem, let's say you ended up in another meeting where those folks just happen to be present, that shouldn't count as that one-on-one time and experience. So how frequently should it happen? The table down below is actually a real kind of time frame. We want to schedule one-on-ones according to your needs and depending on how much experience you have in the job. For example, when you're new to the job, you'll schedule more to one-on-ones more often. In our case, we're going to start off every 2 weeks. Now that may adjust, either because these are the shortest just because of the time limitations of a classroom. These are the shortest one-on-ones I'm ever really going to have. May not be enough. We'll play it by ear and we'll evaluate this as an experiment. So if you're a new employee to a company, every 1 or 2 weeks or weekly is appropriate. After 90 days, it's going to settle into a more regular pattern. And when we say non-exempt, exempt from overtime would be like a salaried or an engineering position. Non-exempt would be like an hourly position. Somebody gets paid by the hour. If you have a technician that works in the factory, they would be considered to be non-exempt. So where you would fit in is in a sustainable, pace for your position, be roughly every 2 weeks, which is kind of where we're going to start it off. Okay. So that's the frequency. From a length perspective, this is the one slide that I did change. We will have to keep a hard barrier. I'm going to attempt as much as I can to design the week in a way that allows for half the classroom time to be dedicated towards small group and one-on-one activities. So the length of the one-on-one is going to have to be around 10 minutes. That's going to be the target. If we have to extend a little bit longer, we will, but 10 minutes is going to be kind of that hard barrier. So I'm going to ask you to manage your time effectively. So this is a real opportunity to practice crisp communication. How concise can you be? What are your true objectives, and how can you fit that within the time frame that we're given? So the length is going to be about 10 minutes. So responsibilities for both the supervisor and for you, we'll start from the left. So for you, we want you to use your time effectively. It's your meeting, it's your agenda. Your supervisor or manager will have some say, will ask some questions that will probably set future topics, but you'll want to use those times effectively. Staying on the left, we want to schedule with the supervisor or manager. The schedule a meeting via the sign-in sheet is the mechanism that we're going to use. I'm going to create one of the sign-in sheets for every 2-week look ahead, and then you're going to be able to sign up for those. We want to cancel only as a last result, and then we want to reschedule any canceled meetings. If somebody's either ill or sick, we want to make sure that we're catching those things up. If it's an emergency, then we can adjust the schedule as need be. We want to arrive on time or begin when we want to, or begin when we say. We also want to prepare an agenda. Do it beforehand, and it's important to send the agenda and supporting documents in advance of the meeting. The thing I'm going to ask and emphasize is that I get the after action review for this first meeting at least a day in advance, because I actually want to review it and have an opportunity to ask or identify what questions I may want to ask. You want to gather any supporting data. If there's something you're going to bring up around a particular topic, have that supporting data available. We want to explain the expected outcomes for the meeting. So when we'll talk about the template, you're going to pre-publish and say, hey, this is what I expect. We want to make sure we're crystal clear and that I'm meeting your needs for what you're up to. I'm going to let you conduct the meeting. That's going to be kind of the primary driver. I mean, initially we'll partner together, and I'll definitely kind of guide some things. But ultimately, if we're a couple of months down the road, this is going to be your meeting. I'm there to support you in meeting those objectives. You can also ask for feedback and input. We can clarify ARs. Now, it's an Intel term, but it's basically action required. It's a task. What tasks got generated because of the meeting? We can also take notes and then document your understanding of decisions, copy your supervisor or manager. That's kind of an optional thing. And then finally, follow up if needed on any items that we identified. Okay, so my responsibilities. I want to act as a role model for organizational values, set expectations that the one-on-ones get scheduled. So if you're not scheduling them, we have grades, so it's going to be a different experience, but we want to make sure those get scheduled. I'm only going to cancel one-on-ones if it's absolutely last resort, and then I will reschedule or will adjust anything that needs to happen. I will also arrive on time. I will review that pre-published agenda prior. If I need data, I'll have that available. I want to listen and be open. Again, this is your time. I'm going to ask clarifying questions and potentially kind of guide maybe, hey, can we explore this a little bit further in future timeframes because our time is so limited, but I'll ask clarifying questions, offer feedback, provide any counsel necessary. If there's a training gap or a piece of thing we just need to kind of cover real quick, I'll train that as well. I'll take notes. I will accept any appropriate action required or task items, and then set clear expectations. And then when I make commitments, I want to make sure that I want to follow through with those. Okay, so this is the action item for today, is preparing that one-on-one agenda. So I would like this to be in Excel or in Word, in a table, or it could be in PowerPoint, but something that can be copy pasted, emailed to me, that I would have available or I would have access to. So it's going to include date, time, and location. So this is going to be easy. The date is going to be the time we talked about. The time is going to be our hour. Location's going to be in the classroom. This is prepared by you. Then it's my supervisor. Manager's name is myself. Then you'll outline, hey, this is the agenda item, and then expected outcome. And then you'll document and have that last column as an option or available to take notes in, comments, action required, or any tasks that need to be completed as a result of what we've talked about, and then any results that come out of that. So that's kind of the blank. And again, this is an experiment on my part. Haven't quite done this at this level. So it'll be interesting. So we want to make sure that we are reflecting often, and then, documenting those results. What can be on the agenda? Well, you could have things, and I'm gonna include this as documentation. If you were an actual, if we were working real world engineer, these would be exactly the kind of things that we would be talking about. Let's kind of walk through them, and then we can make adjustments or kind of translate, if you will. So example things like your development plan. So common understanding of where your current skills are. Relative to what we talked about from the after action review, what skill sets, are you specifically targeting? Are there additional things that we can work on? So agreement on skills or knowledge that we would specifically try to develop moving forward within the curriculum, and then setting some expectations. Training that you need. So that's going to be, again, we're developing kind of curriculum and specifically looking for feedback, getting some understanding on, hey, as we move forward, what are kind of things you need? Any help you need, whatever that may be. I just want to gain a common understanding between the two of us on what that help needed is. And then we can make sure that we are either understanding what needs to happen next, making some adjustments, kind of developing plans. What are those things that are preventing you from accomplishing your learning objectives, your learning goals, like your goal for being in the class? So safety and ergo concerns. If we're in an office environment, it would be things like, hey, are you taking appropriate ergonomic breaks? Are you, not typing as much as you possibly, could possibly be doing? Also want a clarity on expectations. So within the class, if you are consistently getting, maybe a grade that you think isn't representative of what the work that you've done, then let's kind of understand and clarify what those expectations are. And also you can ask for performance feedback. How am I doing? Relative to whatever topic you want to talk about, or relative to whatever kind of performance level that you want to do, right? Okay. Some additional samples. We could also talk about school information. If there's significant events coming on as we kind of get into next year, there's going to be a lot more on my part around bringing in Skills USA, in terms of maybe potential competitions. Are there events that goes on with that? Are there plans or goals? If you're wanting to track to an internship position or an intern in the fourth year, how do we work on that? So what are those kind of school informations? Also can look at things like the work environment, like the classroom status, how we're doing, any problems or issues you may having, or any kind of safety concerns you may have. And then finally, employee development around job satisfaction, or in this case, like satisfaction with the class, career goals and plans. How are we progressing towards ultimately what you want to do within the 3 or 4 years you're within the program, if you're there on that long, and so on and so forth. So those are just the examples. Okay. So my free video thing ends in 15 minutes. I'm at 13. I got 2 more minutes. So you were handed a handout. Within this document, you're going to have a copy. This is actually, if you can actually see this, to the right is the embedded document. You're able to grab that. You could save it. You could send it to OneNote. It's going to be an option. This is a read through thing. I would simply be reading through it without any additional context, but this is a nice handy one-on-one little document to have at your discretion in terms of either in OneNote or part of your engineering notebook. You could print out or have the copy that we printed for you included in there. Okay. So last bit is the last one. So that 101 standard, we've kind of walked through it for each of the classes. We want you to sign up by the last day of the previous sign up sheet. So we're going to be signing up by Friday. And then as we move forward, we'll keep adjusting those on a week by week basis. So in the next 2 weeks, I will post another sign up sheet that will cover, I think, January 14th, 16th through whatever 2 weeks later from that would be. Okay. So in the last couple of seconds before this cuts out, I want to make sure prior to next week, I would like to have your after action review completed. I would like to have your agenda developed and both of those documents handed to me at least the day before or sent to me so that I can preview those, and then I can make the best use of the time that we have together. So take the last bit of this class to wrap up those documents, grab a partner, and then kind of work through practice. Because again, this is going to be a habit. This is going to be something we need to practice. And it's probably best use of your time to at least do a couple of reps with somebody who's there with you in the classroom today. So good luck. We'll see you Monday.